Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to address something that has been at the forefront of the news in this country for well over a year, and that is conspiracy theories and COVID, but also how they tie into chronic illness and just illness in general. One of my observations, having been in the chronic illness community for, going on probably a decade now, is that wherever there is a lot of suffering, you're also going to find a lot of misinformation and conspiracy theories. I remember reading an article at the beginning of the pandemic that conspiracy theories are sort of a way to, it's like a trauma response, but also like a way to cope, I guess. And that it comes as no surprise because when you look at communities where there's a lot of suffering, you're going to find conspiracy theories. So I wanted to focus on two communities that where there's kind of a heavy conspiracy theory angle, and how those conspiracy theories have been recycled and now applied to COVID. So for a lot of you that are not chronically ill, you're hearing about these conspiracy theories for the first time. For those of us that are chronically ill or that do exist within these communities, we've already been seeing this for a long time. So I'm going to talk about, the Lyme disease community, and I'm also going to talk about the autism community because that's where a lot of the current conspiracy theories came from. And yes, they're not new in any way, shape, or form. So, Lyme disease has also been rumored to have escaped from a lab. There's actually even a book. I don't know the name of the book, but there is a book that was written completely about, it's the lab leak theory, which is the exact same thing as COVID, the lab leak. The reason behind Lyme disease is that it was created as a bioweapon by the U.S. military, and I believe it was created like on an island off the like northeastern coast of the country, some island. I don't know any of the names. I do not like to dig into conspiracy theories, because of the fact that I am part of this community, because I do have, this chronic condition, and I do believe people with chronic conditions are very vulnerable to believing these theories. So that's the theory behind Lyme disease. It was created on an island. It got out of the lab, it escaped, and then people started becoming infected with this bioweapon. And there are people that believe that all the different strains of Lyme disease are like different levels of like the bioweapon. I think one of them is like the most resistant, difficult to treat bacteria, because that one was manufactured to be the bioweapon of choice or something. So that's where you get that one. Within the autism community, and most of us are familiar with this one, because it's become so mainstream, is the anti-vaccine. So people that believe this conspiracy theory, there are actually kind of different angles to this, and that's how you know that something is a conspiracy theory, because there are different explanations depending on who you talk to. So a lot of parents, and I'm going to say parents of children with autism or individuals with autism, believe this. I think that if we were to speak to a person with autism, you'd get a totally different opinion on this, but it's typically the parents that believe that once their child started getting vaccinated, I think it's one specific vaccine. I don't know which one because there's so many that you get when you're a kid, but it's one that is typically the culprit that essentially injects toxins into your child, and then they start having these weird neurological problems and difficulty making eye contact and so on and so forth. That's why you see that these symptoms appear. I think it's like around age 2 or 3, because I think it's around age 2 or 3 that they get this specific vaccine. So, the theory is that it's the thimerosal that's inside the vaccine, or the mercury, or I think thimerosal is mercury, or a type of mercury, something like that. And that's what causes these neurological issues. And so a lot of people in the autism community, a lot of parents have turned to alternative therapies to, to heal their kids. So that's where you get these two conspiracies. And now, of course, with COVID, these communities have gone mainstream. So they've essentially recycled these conspiracy theories and applied them to COVID, right? The lab leak theory, that it escaped from a lab, and it got into the general population in China, and then from China it got into the rest of the world. And then now the vaccine is experimental. So this thing that is supposed to help us is now experimental. And the theories vary widely. There are people that just were not feeling comfortable with it because it wasn't FDA approved. Now it has FDA approval. Now that it has FDA approval, it's experimental. People say, no, it doesn't have FDA approval. The FDA approval is for this other version of the same vaccine. So that's how you know that you have a conspiracy theory, because it always seems to sort of change and it continuously warps into these different things that people need it to be in order to justify not getting the vaccine, or blaming China for this outbreak. Behind a lot of this is this evil establishment known as Big Pharma. So, this is where it starts to get really lucrative for certain individuals. And so you have this, this evil entity known as Big Pharma, and they're pushing the vaccine, right? Even if you really want to get crazy, they're the ones that created, right? They created this this virus in a laboratory. It escaped, right? It escaped, meaning they helped it escape, and now they're pushing this vaccine because it's going to make them billions and billions of dollars. And I'm sure there are more sinister people behind Big Pharma, Dr. Fauci and so on and so forth. There always has to be a doctor behind all of it. The sad part is that there are doctors behind this, but not the doctors that you think. And I have seen this whole Big Pharma thing. A lot of chiropractors push that evil entity. There are some doctors, some PhDs that also push that, and it's because they want to profit from it. So you will often see the people that are talking about Big Pharma and how Big Pharma just wants to keep you sick, and they want to push pills and they want to push vaccines. And the same people that are proposing that theory are also selling you something. They're selling you a book. They're selling you a diet. They're selling you supplements. They're selling you things, they're selling you something. And they're saying, look, don't get the vaccine. You need to enhance your immune system. Here's my 25-day guide to show you how to enhance your immune system so that if you do get sick, it's very mild and you'll have natural immunity and blah, 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 and this and that. So there are a lot of places, like I said, a lot of chiropractors I see are pushing this. A lot of nutritionists, naturopaths will push a lot of this kind of stuff because it's lucrative for them, right? And you're going to see a lot of the alternative medicine community jumping on that bandwagon. And, I've seen it, like I said, I've seen it with some chiropractors who tend to be more alternative, I guess. But one of the places that I am actually seeing some of this recently is in the stem cell industry. And I've been researching stem cells and that kind of thing for my own. I've been considering the therapy, but again, there's a lot of controversy behind it. And part of it is that Big Pharma just doesn't want you to know, right? Big Pharma doesn't want you to know that you don't need their drugs. You can go get stem cells, and stem cells will cure you of all your ills, right? And you will see this if you have ever looked into stem cell therapy for your chronic condition. They make these claims that they can treat, lupus and multiple sclerosis, diabetes. I mean, you name it. I was pretty surprised because I've never actually done a deep dive into stem cell therapy until recently. And it's just crazy the amount of things. They also treat autism, coincidentally. And a lot of times, the people that push stem cell therapy or stem cell injections and things like that are the same people that rail against big pharma and the corruption of big pharma and pushing pills and this, that, and the other. And you'll see that a lot of these people are also the same ones that believe that vaccines are very dangerous and that, a lot of these illnesses are manufactured, or they can be cured in a natural way. You don't have to, if you have high blood pressure, you don't need, blood pressure medication. You can do diet, exercise, supplements, and that will fix it, right? So conspiracy theories have a purpose, besides being this weird trauma response. They're also being pushed by people that are trying to make money off of them. I think it's a slippery slope here. You have to be really careful because it can be believable. I did buy into the anti-vax thing many years ago when I was working with an autistic child. I was placed as a paraeducator for him. And in doing my research, because I'm not a paraeducator, I wasn't trained to be a paraeducator, I was researching autism to see, what I could do to prepare to, be helping this child. And I did come across, I believe, what is her name? She's really famous for being anti-vaccine. I forget her name. And she wrote a book because her son has autism, and she was talking about how he got his vaccine. I think he was like 2 or 3 years old, and she noticed immediately that her son just started exhibiting different behavior. And, there were, I think there was like a teacher or a librarian at the school that also, she was pregnant, she was going to have a child, but she was looking into vaccine schedules because one of the big things that kind of caught on during this anti-vax movement was vaccine schedules. Which is basically changing the order, spacing out the vaccination schedule for your child so that they don't, I guess, become too toxic or something. I guess that's the theory behind it. Too many vaccines at once can hurt your kid. So, I saw this firsthand from people that were going to have kids, from working with a child that was autistic, from reading books about autism. I believe there really is no concrete evidence that vaccines cause autism. And having been in the Lyme disease community, there are also children who have had autism who have been treated for Lyme disease and their symptoms have improved. So that kind of blows that theory out of the water. But, I think what I'm trying to point out is that these conspiracy theories are not new. They've been around for a long, long time. Those of us who are sick and in these communities, we've known about this forever. And so to me, it's more surprising when somebody within, the Lyme disease community or the autism community falls for this kind of stuff, because it's the exact same conspiracy theory. It's, what a coincidence. It's the same conspiracy theory being recycled and applied to something different. I understand a person's totally healthy. This is their first major health crisis that they've ever experienced. And yeah, they're very likely to believe in these kinds of things, especially because they're so afraid right now, and people are very, very afraid. And that's a point that I want to make when it comes to people that are anti-vaccine and that are conspiracy theorists and that claim that they're not going to live in fear, that they're not going to, they don't have to take a vaccine, they don't have to wear a mask. They are living in fear, because people that properly cope with something like this, they're getting vaccinated, they're wearing a mask, they're living their lives. They're unbothered, you know what I mean? People that are constantly railing against all of these protective measures and freaking out and declaring war and all of this kind of stuff, they're afraid, that, like I said, it's a trauma response. You're essentially freaking out and obsessing, right? And I've actually seen a lot of these people. There are a couple, I'm not going to name names, but there are a couple of people that I followed on Twitter that were also I was following them because they were in the Lyme community, and we all, we would exchange notes and talk about different treatments that we had tried. And let me tell you, these two women went down the rabbit hole completely, especially when it comes to the ivermectin thing and vaccine passports. I mean, it becomes this obsession. And that's one thing that I have noticed even within the autism community. These people are so they're mourning something. They are terrified. They are suffering, and they sort of get stuck in this suffering, and they just go at it. I mean, just constant. It's nuts when I see a Twitter account that is just almost entirely dedicated to one thing, whether it's anti-masking, anti-vaxxing, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vaccine injury, and you see these people that they're literally spinning their wheels, and they're just stuck in the mud spinning their wheels. And that's because they're in a state of constant trauma and they can't get out of there. And so that's one thing that I want people to recognize. Yes, it's very tempting to believe that there's such a simple answer, right? It escaped from a lab, or, the vaccine, just stop vaccinating and all of these conditions will disappear. And I don't think it's that simple, And again, pay attention to who is pushing these narratives, particularly if they have large followings on social media. That's one thing. If they've got a big following on social media, if they're pushing a product, if they're, say, a chiropractor, or even if they're a doctor, because there are a lot of doctors right now that are pushing this kind of stuff. And I myself have doctors that talk about big pharma and, pushing pills and that kind of thing. They have something to gain by pushing that narrative. So be very cognizant of that. Be cognizant of alternative, you have to be, you have to show discretion or discernment when it comes to alternative medicine. I'm not saying alternative medicine is bad. There have been people that have been helped by stem cell therapy. There are people that swear by hyperbaric oxygen treatment. But you have to be careful, and you really have to, I don't like using the term do your research. You have to talk to doctors, different doctors, that have different backgrounds. Talk to an alternative doctor, talk to a conventional doctor, talk to an integrative physician, talk to a naturopath, talk to everybody. And yeah, do whatever little bit of research you can do. But if you feel very biased, if a person is just 100%, like, say, they're all about stem cell therapy and they don't believe in anything else, you've got a problem there. I think a doctor or even a chiropractor that is trustworthy is going to tread carefully. And this is one thing that I've been paying attention to as I've been talking to all of these different physicians that do stem cell therapy is I'm looking for someone that's middle of the road. And because they are selling something that is very expensive and that is going to make them a lot of money, sometimes they're just going to tell you, look, this is how we're going to do the protocol and this is how it should help. You really want to pay very careful attention to what they're saying. I recently had I think a couple days ago I had um, an evaluation with a doctor that does stem cell therapy. By the way, these are not American doctors because stem cell therapy is actually illegal in the United States. A lot of these doctors are based in Mexico. And this was the first doctor that I spoke to that said, look, I'm not incredibly familiar with your condition or conditions. She said, and I need to really research it a little bit more and look at what's out there regarding your condition, one of your conditions. And that was really refreshing to me because she was the first one that said that. She was the first one that basically told me that out of all of these other, stem cell clinics. Some of the other ones, told me that, there are no guarantees, but this is how the protocol is going to work. And this is what, we've done this on this other illness and that kind of thing. And then they tell you how much it costs. And then you put the pieces together and you think to yourself, well, that's why they're offering me this treatment, right? It's an evaluation process, but it's an evaluation process. You're technically already pre-approved. They're just going through the motions that they're actually screening you for this. But like I said, this last doctor that I spoke to, they will screen you for cancers themselves before any of this, because as you know, stem cell therapy is dangerous. And that's another thing I want you guys to pay attention to. Anybody that is telling you these are natural, all natural treatments, which for whatever reason, a lot of these clinics claim that stem cell therapy is an all natural treatment. It is not. Even herbal medicine, even vitamins and stuff, they can be very dangerous if they are not administered properly. Stem cells is a big one. It is not a natural treatment. So when you talk to doctors, are they giving you a neutral opinion? Are they warning you of the of the risks and benefits? That's why I have my own doctor that can't offer these treatments, and I go to her and I say, hey, what do you think? And she'll be honest with me because she has no financial investment in it. So always ask yourself, do these doctors have some kind of financial investment? Do they have something to gain money-wise from what they're saying? So that's what I wanted to talk about, because this is top of mind right now for all of us. And I see so many people that are just falling into these conspiracy theory wormholes. And there's a reason why these conspiracy theories are out there. It's not because they're true. It's not because, the Chinese government is trying to overthrow America. It's because somebody is making money off of spreading these lies. And that's what they are at the end of the day. They're lies. So please be very, very careful. If you haven't seen my video on ivermectin yet, go watch that. I did get a lot of, like I said, people are freaking out right now. And so, I did get a little bit of blowback on that video, but I expected that, especially because of where we're at right now in the pandemic. So, that's what I've got for you guys today. I will come back with more stuff. I'm trying to get videos up, especially right now because it's so relevant. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And like I said, I'll try to come back with some more good stuff, and I will see you again soon. All right, take care, guys.